I'm going to do a quick sound and video check and then we'll just jump right into it. All right, how's that looking? Why does it? Do I have to leave it minimized? All right, I think we're good. So, welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Today's video, just want to take a quick rundown through the crypto universe. And yeah, hope you all are doing well. I did do a couple stock videos recently. And just so you guys know, that's one of the goals I have on this channel is to keep talking about crypto, but also talk about different stock sectors and all things in the market, not just crypto specifically. And I think, it'll be a work in progress, but I think there's some good content coming out. Put out a video today on is a stock market crash imminent? I think I showed some good data that's worth checking out. But anyways, let's get into crypto and let's take a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. First of all, I've been liking this, and you can see where all these shorts are stacked up. My gosh, like from 70K up to 73K. Let's take a look at, we'll go to the weekly and then the daily here as far as where that 70 to 73K area is. So kind of right in here. Probably need to look at the 4 hour, but there's a lot of shorts being stacked up between 70 and 73K. So, going back over to the liquidation heat map, again, seeing where all these shorts are stacked up. Really, the area to watch on the charts is kind of this 200 moving average on the 4 hour. Maybe this little area right here as well. So, a couple things to keep an eye on. The Bitcoin halving chart. This one, maybe I'll get into this today. I was sort of wondering what I want to talk about. And one of the essential questions I feel we need to address is, are we truly in phase two? I've been saying for pretty much the last half year we're in phase two. I want to really answer that, whether or not we truly are in phase two, because we have quantitative easing coming back. There's no longer QT in the market. So you see right there, QE is coming back a little bit. The new Fed chair supposedly going to be very rate cut dependent. At least that's what people say. And so, that's one thing we've been keeping an eye on. But also that QE coincided with the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing. And last cycle, we saw the Fed pivot from QT to QE right here, right at the very bottom. And we can overlay that quick. So you see that right here. Quantitative easing pulled us into alt season. And again, we have the 4-year cycle, but we have the money flow cycle. And I want to answer, are we truly in phase two where Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin? Technically speaking, yes. However, there's some things in the chart to show whether or not that's truly the case. So what I have here is I have a Fibonacci retracement drawn. Let's delete that for a second. I took out the outliers because we can see where these trend lines are, and I just drew a Fibonacci retracement from this high to the low right over here. And then we have our fib on log. And we can see that Ethereum's pairing against Bitcoin. It's at a key part right now. So from that trend line high to low, we can see, and again, we're looking at Ethereum Bitcoin in a macro sense, lower highs, broke down, bottomed here, and then we got a perfect 0.5 retrace. Hi, Mark. Hey, what's up, Shambath? How are you? And we also hit that trend line. So 0.5 retrace, trend line, kind of held the 382 for a little bit, coming down here. I'm sure low to high, there's probably a fib there as well. If I had to guess, it's probably a 0.5. Yeah, pretty close to it, but almost to the 0.5. But it's going down again. And so, what do I say about charts in general? If we're under the macro 382, we can always go lower. Okay. There's no doubting this trend line. We also have the 50 moving average. So, all those things considered, I'm sort of feeling that we aren't, truly phase two confirmed. We could be, even though technically speaking, is Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin right now, or is it showing a path to it? Well, since this moment, yes, it has. But I think we definitely need to see this break above this chart, ETH Bitcoin break above the 382 in this trend line. We need to see ETH Bitcoin get above zero point 0.2. And again, zero point 0.2 means that 20% of all money in crypto, zero point 0.2 is that's Bitcoin dominance I'm talking about. 0.2 is that Ethereum's market cap is 20% that of Bitcoin. So if we go over to coin market cap and take a look at this, you could double check my math. Divide 232 billion into 1.3 trillion. So you can do 1,300 divided by 232. You'll get roughly right now 18%. That's what the 0.18 is. Other options 501. YOLO. Hey, there's still bulls around. So again, could we be seeing a front running of the money flow cycle compared to the 4-year cycle? Possibly, but we have to invalidate this trend line. We have to invalidate all this. Again, 0.5 retrace, but we're still going lower. So, final answer for me, this trend line, this 382, we have to see 0.2 get taken. Once this gets taken, I will feel fully confident that we are in phase two on our path to alt season. Now, the common sentiment, at least for the average person, they hear about the 4-year cycle. And again, this is worth repeating. The 4-year cycle and the money flow cycle were hand in hand here in 2017. Again, as you take a look at this path to alt season, what happens is once Bitcoin tops and it's too expensive to keep buying, that's when we have a rotation into our large caps and our small caps. Okay. And in 2017, this went together well. Bitcoin topped here. We had the rotation and the money flow cycle was complete. Last cycle, however, it was different. We had our 4-year cycle here, but the money flow cycle came to a conclusion here. And if that wasn't complicated enough, the technical cycle top was here in March of 24. So April, we had alt season, the completion of let me go to the right chart or picture here, the completion of the money flow cycle, that happened in April of 21. We had the 4-year cycle here, and then we had the cycle top between the halvings here. So if you're brand new to all this crypto stuff and you're like, what's this 4-year cycle thing all about? After the genesis of crypto and the first halving, we can see cycle top December 2013, cycle top December 2017. Again, alt season was here. Cycle top, well, technically not even cycle top, but a strong local top here November 21. Remember, this was alt season in March, April 21. The cycle top was here. Okay, and we just had a local strong 4-year cycle top here as well. And if you're like, wait, are you sure that that the alt season was in April? Yes, we can see that with Bitcoin dominance right here. So again, Bitcoin dominance, we get that rotation. Let me take off the moving averages. Again, alt season is when Bitcoin's too expensive to keep buying, and then we see a rotation into alts. That rotation, you can see Bitcoin dominance is right here in April 21. And we can see when we overlay Bitcoin, that Bitcoin tops before the rotation. So again, when Bitcoin tops and it's too expensive to keep buying, then we get that rotation. So we had the rotation into alt season. Money flowed back into Bitcoin. Some altcoins still did well here, but there wasn't truly an alt season here. And we haven't had an alt season yet. When we see Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance kind of going hand in hand, down together, sort of up together, then we're not in alt season territory. But if we see a divergence, again, Bitcoin up and then rotation, that is what we're looking for alt season. So to put a nice bow on this, to go back to Ethereum, Bitcoin, again, here's all these series of lower highs. We had on the moving averages before, the 50 was around the 3.2. This area of 0.2 has to break. Now, one of the promising indicators for a money flow cycle, maybe coming to a completion still this cycle, one of the indicators I like is the MACD. Now, we see overall this MACD pull negative. And for the first time since 2022, 23, the literal market bottom, we've seen the MACD reverse as far as the trend. Now, what needs to happen here, and it's fine that the MACD is coming down, but what we need to see happen to reverse this trend is a higher low on the moving averages for the MACD. If we see that happen and Ethereum, Bitcoin break through the trend line, the 3.2, that 20% as I talked about, then what I think would be very possible is that for this cycle, to see that money flow cycle, again, not the 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle and the money flow cycle have not been locked together since 2017. Last cycle, QE screwed it all up. We had money flow cycle here, 4-year cycle here, cycle top here, 3 different tops. My God, we just had 4-year cycle, no money flow cycle, and we don't know yet if this was a cycle top. So I've been of the mindset that, is it possible we see a pump into a halving? That could be the conclusion of this money flow cycle, or even a mid-cycle top. And I do think that's possible. We can go over to the Bitcoin chart to look at that. If we take a look at the Bitcoin chart, and let's take off the MACD here, we can turn on a couple things. Our bubble risk indicator, okay, and then we're going to turn on our pi cycle indicator as well. Okay, so remember what I just said. Could we see the money flow cycle, again, not the 4-year cycle, those are 2 different things now. Could we see a money flow cycle still happen before the halving? The halving being somewhere over here, okay, 2028 or something. So we had the mid-cycle top here, and then the last 2 cycles, they both pumped into the halving. Well, let's take a look at what the bubble risk indicator and the pi cycle chart shows. Now, the pi cycle has been triggered when this lower moving average crosses above the other one. You see this is where the bubble risk indicator is high. We had a pi cycle trigger there. Great. Now here in the mid-cycle top of 2019, the bubble risk indicator was also pretty high. In fact, it was higher right here than anything we've seen this cycle so far. So a mid-cycle pump can definitely get us there. And you can see it got us right to that pi cycle moving average. Here, the pi cycle triggered, albeit barely. So I don't believe we're going to see a pi cycle trigger ever again because Bitcoin, it does move in this logarithmic regression. I'm not here saying we're going to see 500 Bitcoin anytime within the next 10 years. In fact, I think the most bullish type of target would be 200K Bitcoin. Maybe I can get into that later in the chart, but I think even this rainbow chart, if they corrected it, these red bands would flatten out more. That's how log regression works, is that you have the x-axis of time, the y-axis of log scale, factors of 10. This needs to be flattening out more. The bottoms have been calling it good, but the tops haven't. And they had a former Bitcoin rainbow chart. You can see this is why they had to update it. I think they need to update it again. Or actually, I know they need to update it again. No chart's perfect. Anyways, what did we see yet again going into the halving? We saw Bitcoin pump to the pi cycle, and also this is the last highest time we've seen Bitcoin on its bubble risk indicator and for the pi cycle. So what am I trying to say? By the way, Rhetoric, hello, hope you're doing well. Good seeing you in the comments. What am I trying to say here? We see these pi cycle pumps. We see the bubble risk indicators. We have not hit the pi cycle at all. The highest the bubble risk indicator has been this cycle was here in late December. This last October pump really wasn't anything, and this shows us that. But what I'm saying is that it is possible, again, that we see the money flow cycle maybe come or maybe happen sooner than people think. Now, is the money flow cycle just going to wait until the next 4-year cycle top in, let's say, September of 2029? Maybe. I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. But what I'm trying to prepare us for, again, because there's no certainties, there's just probabilities. I'm trying to prepare us for whether or not we could see the money flow cycle, again, not the 4-year cycle, if we could see the money flow cycle coincide with the mid-cycle pump or a pump into the halving. The pumps into the halvings have not been bad. After we've seen Bitcoin bottom out for a cycle, the pumps into the halvings tend to be pretty good. So again, I think the charts back it up, at least as far as correlation data goes. Even the cycle before 2017, look at this, hit the pi cycle a couple times. The white line's the halving. So we hit the pi cycle before the halving. Mid-cycle top here, okay? Hit the pi cycle before the halving. I wonder, are we going to see a mid-cycle top yet again, and that be when the money flow cycle happens? So if that's to be the case, let's get rid of this. We really don't need pi cycle for that. If that's the case, we need to see Ethereum, Bitcoin break above this trend line and that 382. Okay. Now, as far as Bitcoin, let me just re-go over, how am I looking for a Bitcoin bottom? All right. There's a few ways out there. Some people, they say, from wherever the cycle top is, or a 4-year cycle, just wait a year. The bottom's pretty close to that. All right, cool. Other people say, last cycle, Bitcoin topped and then bottomed pretty close to where the former top was. So, are we, going to bottom close to where the former top was yet again? Maybe. That didn't happen for the cycle before, but that's been one perspective people have had. The rainbow chart. What does the rainbow chart show? Let's just go out to May. Could we see a bottom somewhere you see those blue zones, the 40s to the 50s, all right? Maybe. Let's just look at different indicators together. This is the monthly moving average. A few cycles ago, we saw Bitcoin bottom at the 50. This is the 50-month moving average. Back 2019, it bottomed at the 50-month moving average. This was COVID. Last cycle, we bottomed at the 100, right? Right now, Bitcoin, it already touched the 50. Is it possible it bottomed there? Sure. The 100 is down here at the mid 40Ks. Remember, that's what we saw in the rainbow chart. So, the mid 40s, low area on the rainbow chart. All right, cool. What other indicators do we have to show, where a possible bottom is? I like this indicator. That's the Bitcoin Hunter. The Bitcoin Hunter, you see, this is on the monthly time frame. Look how rare it is. 1, 2, 3 times we've seen Bitcoin Hunter get tagged on this macro scale here. So, are we waiting to see Bitcoin Hunter get tagged at roughly 54K? Maybe. I also like, I'll say this. I don't like trying to say the exact number Bitcoin's going to hit. Like on October 5th at 9:04 a.m., Bitcoin will be exactly 49,319 and 36 cents. I don't know. None of us know. But what I think helps is having maybe a range and some confirmation indicators. So we see the Bitcoin production costs. If we get deeper in this zone, you see, again, the mid 40K. So it seems as far as right now, I don't know if 40K is going to be hit or not, or the mid 40s. But if it was, for the 100-month moving average and for the Bitcoin production costs, those might be pretty good values for Bitcoin. I think some of the confirmation indicators that say, have we truly bottomed, or what are some things to show that, I have a strong sense that Bitcoin is bottom. Well, you see, when Bitcoin has a cycle top and the stochastic on the monthly goes into a bear market, once it starts or is completely bottomed out and flipping up, that's been pretty darn close at calling the bottom. Now, this one we had to see more blue above orange, but buying here, wouldn't have been bad at all. Here, I mean, is at the very bottom? No, but no one's complaining about that. Here, again, no one's complaining about that. So right now, the stochastic RSI has completely bottomed. Are we going to be down here for a year, 6 months? I don't know. But this is one of those indicators I'm watching for. You also might notice on my chart, what do I have as far as my candles? I have on Heikin-Nashi candles because it shows the trend. The trend's your friend. And as far as the last cycle bottom, you can see the very first monthly green candle after that 4-year cycle top, good area to get in at. Now, the cycle before 2017, there's a little bit of a trap here, though I will say when we look at the moving averages, we were still above the 20-month moving average or the 50-week moving average, which is close to that. We are under the 20-month moving average. So, could we get a green candle here? Maybe. So, one of my strategies, not telling you what to do, is scale in, scale out. Are we at an area where I feel okay scaling in? Yes, we are. To be totally honest, yes, we are. We're at the 50-month moving average at 200-week. If all of a sudden we got a trend reversal, great. But I am here to tell you, as far as trends, we are negative. There's no light red boxes, nothing to say that we are positive right now as far as the trends go for Bitcoin. Even the MACD on the weekly, we had a light red box for a moment and then it went away. So the MACD on the weekly is very negative, and you can see the 200-week moving average. You don't like to see candle bodies eating through that. So, if we get any more sort of flush into the low 50K areas, that's what I'm looking for. Let's go to the comments. Noed Jimsy, I talked about money flow in the money flow cycle earlier part of this video. You'll have to go back and watch, but what I was talking about is the possibility of a mid-cycle top or a pump into the halving, and the money flow cycle possibly coinciding with that. But what we need to see is Ethereum Bitcoin break. And I'll admit here in a way with my hand up that it's possible I was wrong. I don't know yet, but I've been saying, you subscribers have heard me say, we've been in phase 2. And technically speaking, Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin. Even after this pullback, Ethereum is technically outperforming Bitcoin in this way. And we have the MACD showing us that we're at least, flipping positive. And again, if we get a higher low, that'll confirm it. But, I think kind of some honest feedback for myself is I jumped the gun a little bit because we have this descending trend line, the 382. So I'm here to say, we got to break this trend line for us truly to be in phase 2 and say, you know what, maybe money flow cycle can happen with a mid-cycle top or pump into the halving. We got to break this trend line. Then I think things will get more interesting. So there's your hopium, Noah Jimsy. But going back to Bitcoin, as far as the weekly, things have been pretty oversold. Let's go to, there's this pi cycle bottom indicator that we took a look at before. By the way, Noah Jimsy, I got your comment. Are we cooked? I love the lingo. Let's turn off the moving averages. Pi cycle bottoms on the weekly. Look at these moving averages. Okay, as far as where they've been in the past, we have not crossed negative yet. Now I've said pi cycle top. I don't feel as strongly about that ever triggering again. Pi cycle bottom. We didn't barely trigger a pi cycle. last 2 times. We did so even stronger the last time around. So I am expecting a pi cycle bottom. Again, doesn't mean we can't get, a decent pump. I mean, if we look at some of these pumps, 40%. If Bitcoin pumps 40% right now, why did that go away? Let's try that again. If Bitcoin pumps 40% from right now, where would that put us? Imagine if that happens and Bitcoin's all of a sudden at like the mid 80Ks. People are going to be bullish. All right. So that was last cycle as far as one of those pumps. You can see even the cycle before in 2017. I mean, my God, look how big was this pump low to high? 100%. So that's crazy. Again, if we had that, it would totally flip the sentiment. So things are heading in the negative direction right now. I'm waiting, for the stochastic RSI. I'm waiting for monthly green candles. I'm waiting for more confirmation. We don't have confirmation yet. At least let's go to reverse Cutler's RSI. Here's your hopium, Nua Jimsy, is that, we have an opportunity to get in at some good discount values. We never know the market that we're going to get. There's a market we want and there's a market we get. And as long as your strategy is sound and solid, you got to play the long game. And the other part of this, I say this all the time, the truly hardest part is picking the right asset. Pick the right stock, pick the right crypto. You stick with it, it'll pay off. Is Bitcoin the right asset? That's a question for any of us to answer for ourselves, but there's a reason why we're here. We do believe in the potential of it to some extent. When you check swing gold indicator, bottom is so near, maybe around March 30th, first dip. Swing gold. I have not seen that swing gold. Let's swing for gold and Bitcoin. I assume this is the one you're talking about because all the ratings it has. Let's take a look at it. And I wonder if I have to go to the weekly. All right, I got you. So yeah, this kind of reminds me a little bit of the Bitcoin Hunter that we talked about before. 1 second. All right, cool. Got a phone notification I need to check. Getting a lot of errands done this weekend. But I had maybe like 40 minutes to an hour. So I wanted to get one of these out for you guys. So again, are we going to hit this exactly? Are we going to go underneath it a little bit? What did we do last time? 26% down from that area. Where is that? I'll go to the upper end of it. Let's just say 25%. Again, the mid 40Ks. That mid 40K keeps popping up. That's the rainbow chart. We have mid 40K as a possible bottom. We have, I believe it was the moving average. I believe it was the 100-month moving average. Yeah, mid 40Ks. We also have Bitcoin production costs. I have to turn this one off a little bit. Bitcoin production costs right there as well. Even the Bollinger Band on the monthlies right here too. So I don't know if we're getting here or stopping here or here, but I think this whole range, if we have confirmation of a bottom, I don't mind scaling in some of my favorite crypto assets. I will say, I did a stock video earlier. I do believe we're coming up on a time. I won't get into all the charts. I do believe we're coming up on a time where we may see a little bit of a correction in the stock market, whether it's a summer or coming soon, like a 10 to 20% correction. I think that's coming. I don't believe the bubble's popping. But during that time, what's that going to look like for crypto? I'm curious. Do you think we will get that pump to 80K with the 3-day death cross and then drop to 40K? So death cross. Let's see. Are you on the daily? I mean, yeah, we already had a negative death cross there. Let's take a look here. I mean, I'm looking at the moving averages, the 50 and the 100, you can see By the time the 50 and the 100 met, the bottom was in there. By the time the 50 and the 200 met and crossed, the bottom was in there. Let's also look at the 20. When the 20 crossed the 200, you know, in between the 50 and the 200 and the 20, that's the red, and the 200, the 200 is the dark blue. Not a bad area to get in overall. Even when the 50 crossed the 100, you know, right there, that was a good time to buy as well. Or I'm sorry, the 20 moving average. When the red line, the 20 cross under the 100, and the red line's about to cross under the 100 as well. So, you know, are we going to get this, but sooner in the year? Possible. I did a video a couple months back, or no, weeks back, where I talked about how at the speed at which crypto is correcting, I'm starting to lean, and again, you know, is this based off anything solid? No, it's just the speed at which it's falling. I find that it's probably more likely that we could see a top, or I'm sorry, a bottom before the summer than, you know, another classic full 1 year pullback. I could be wrong, but I think it's more probable we see a bottom, you know, sometime around then than in the summer. Now, one of the, which one? Here we go. I mean, this kind of disagrees with that. If we look at a classic midterm year, you know, we're looking at buying in the summer or before the midterms. Is it that simple? You know, let's see, are the markets going to recover soon and all of a sudden pump up? If so, you know, then I'm going to say it's more probable in the summer. If not, I think we might see a bottom earlier as in comparison. So, you know, I didn't want to go to it, but we'll do this. Let's go over to, you know, the S&P 500, some of the major indexes, you know, and just we have the MACD very negative right now, and I think it's possible we could see a decent flush soon. Again, not a crash, but just a good correction. I feel like, you know, the Dow just negatively crossed. And why wouldn't it? You know, we have all the memes of the Dow getting over 50K. It just feels like everyone bragging about it would call the top, especially, I don't know if you noticed, but all the fibs, if you watch my video earlier today of, is the stock market about to crash? I don't think so. Knock on wood. That'd be just the funniest, awful way to like be wrong about something, to make a proclamation and just, you know, get it so wrong. But I see a correction, but not a full-blown crash. But we do have negative MACDs across the board. You know, the Nasdaq, the Dow, the S&P. And so, you know, I could see, again, a 10 to 20% correction and then resuming to the upside. And I think once that correction's done, if that correction is already playing out, starting to play out now, like I think it is, that leads me to believe, you know, then the bottom would be in May or April or, you know, sometime even before summer. So, yeah, the MACD is pretty negative right now. What are your thoughts on Mara? Shambath says. Well, Shambath, I do videos on Bitcoin mining stocks every week. And, you know, we have the top performing mining stocks this cycle have been the ones using their mining stock power for the AI data centers and AI. As far as Bitcoin mining stocks go, they're the number one holder of Bitcoin. So they are the number two overall holder of Bitcoin behind MicroStrategy. So they are going to go the way that Bitcoin goes. If you believe Bitcoin's going to go lower, which I do, then I think Mara is going to go lower. I like Mara. I really do. I like them for a lot of reasons, but I am not necessarily buying Mara right now until I have confirmation that Bitcoin's bottom. So all the things I just talked about, you know, as far as confirmation and some of those indicators, we don't have that. And also, I mean, I don't love seeing this either. We have this descending channel, which, you know, usually we feel bullish about, but then it broke down. And what do we see on the weekly? We see the channel being retested as resistance. And so when I usually see this, I'll be completely honest. I'm looking for Mara to kind of come back down to this $4 area. So I'm being patient on Mara. Again, watch. I think it's as simple as, because they're the number 2 overall holder of the most Bitcoin. Just watch what Bitcoin does. And once Bitcoin has put in a bottom, great. And, overall, I mean, here, just look at the MACD trend. Right now, that MACD trend is still negative. All right. I'm wondering, do we have any sort of bullish divergence on an RSI? No, right now it's just bearish. It's just bearish. Let's go over to the monthly. Yeah, it's just bearish right now. So just wait for confirmation, in my opinion. Let's go to Bitcoin dominance. Is this thing doing anything different right now? Bitcoin dominance, if we, again, put on our MACD, this is one. Again, following the MACD trends, you see how it pulls to the upside. To me, this looks like a very exhausted MACD, and it's about to cross negative again, which is interesting. So as it crosses negative, are we about to see, an influx of money into the crypto world, kind of like at a very unexpected time? But I'd be watching, if it is about to come down, I'd be watching this area for a reaction. Do we have any sort of moving averages? Yeah, we have the 200. But man, Bitcoin dominance is just being squeezed between the 50 and the 100. So, place your bets as far as which way you think this will go. As far as total 3, light red box, we had that for Bitcoin too. Can total 3 hold on to support here in the golden pocket? Now we saw the bottom of total 3 pretty close to where the former high was. But again, I think, waiting for more confirmation, which we don't have yet. We talked about Ethereum, Bitcoin, our large caps. I'm still waiting for our large caps to come down a little bit lower. Tether dominance. Let's take a look at this. Because this has an inverse correlation to Bitcoin. Is Tether dominance showing any signs of slowing down? Nothing yet. So this is another indicator or chart to watch. It's still bullish. Higher highs, higher lows, no light green. Even if it is light green, I mean, it's not turned over yet. So yeah, I expect that to go higher. Ethereum is, let's go to log again. Getting close to its 100-month moving average. I've been saying, I called this one a while ago. Not to pat myself on the back, but I said, you know what? Like 1700 Ethereum, that was a level that was just barely tagged. And then that was the tariff scare right here. I believe anything 1700, 1300, anything 1700 or under, if you like Ethereum, I think is a good area to consider. So again, putting a bow on what we talked about earlier, and then I'll get to any questions, or we'll take a look at other charts. Bitcoin's still bearish. We looked at various indicators. 45 to 55K seems to be a really good range to look for. I like your swing gold indicator, by the way. I believe that's Noah Jimsy that told us about that. So thank you for that. It's another good range indicator. Okay. There was another indicator I wanted to take a look at, by the way. Which one? It was the trend ribbon. Here it was. Yeah, this one, I remember the first week this thing changed trend. I was like, oh boy, we have not seen red since the bottom. And this thing's still playing out. So the Don Chain trend ribbon, great indicator. Now again, if you waited for red here, you'd just be buying the bottom. The red here was the bottom. The red here, it's still at another flush or two. This, you guys have heard my opinions. It was the black swan at the bottom. But as far as, they even have like dark red, like to show that we're coming out of it. As far as those shadows go, we don't have anything like that yet. But I think the Don Chain trend ribbon, that was another one I wanted to make sure I took a look at with you guys. But we have a lot of good indicators. We have a lot of good indicators to show us where our ranges, we are within the range of the bottom as far as where it's going to be, mid 40K, 54K, the 200 week moving average right now. We'll see. We gotta see how the markets react, whether or not there is more bearishness to go. So yeah, if you have any comments, questions below, please type them. Otherwise, I will. I'll just look at some different altcoins, Bitcoin mining stocks, and then we'll call it a day. Can't do as long of a video, but I love doing live streams with you guys. You always have some good stuff to say. Do watch that video I put out earlier on, is the stock market going to crash? I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts. Agree, disagree? Again, I believe we're due for a correction, 10 to 20% correction. I don't think the bubble is popping yet. And again, maybe famous last words. So yeah. And I think I need to do a video specific, because I talk about it a lot, but just the money flow cycle. This is so important. This is, to me, like the chart to watch. Again, I maybe jumped the gun and said, yeah, we're in phase 2, because Ethereum bottomed against Bitcoin and QT ended here. And, in a way, it's like, okay, yeah, like it's possible I'm right. QE started with the bottom of ETH Bitcoin, and QE is started and we were front running it back then. Again, we're in a bubble, so it doesn't surprise me when stuff is front running. Here's the Shiller P ratios I was talking about. We are in a bubble. But even, look at this big correction. I believe the stock market went down like 15% or something, but like overall, we had another 400 bullish days and 25% up to go back in the .com days. So yeah, this trend line needs to break. The 382 and the trend line need to break. In GLI, when you just click Japan, it's interesting. Thanks, man. Always. In the global liquidity index, when you just click Japan, it's interesting. Is that a chart I can pull up? Global. Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff about liquidity. If there's a chart I can pull up, cool. I'm not going to do Google. NASDAQ Global. Yeah, I don't necessarily see anything. But if you have a ticker for me, let me know. I'll search it up for you, Noah Jimsy. And you're welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some mining stocks, some altcoins, or any charts that you guys want me to take a look at. MicroStrategy, this one, again, I wonder if it's as simple. GLI indicator is okay. All right, we'll come back to that in a bit. Here, last cycle, MicroStrategy bottomed at around the 200-month moving average. I wonder if it's that simple. And if Bitcoin does have another flush, you may check the settings, just a reminder. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Sorry, I'm talking about this and with Noah Jimsy in the comments, if any of you are confused. So I do wonder, is it this simple? Are we going to see MSTR just come down to here? Maybe. I wanted to take a look. The software sector has been going through it lately. It's at the 50-month moving average. Man, Microsoft long term, I like this area. I really do, but do we have confirmation? No. But yeah, if Microsoft gets under here at all and goes to some of the other moving averages, you can see this .com bubble. It went down to the 100. If Microsoft ever gets there, I'll be very happy. Rhetoric, do you play with or use the Super Guppy indicator? Yes, I do. Rhetoric, let's play with Super Guppy. There's a couple different Guppy indicators or Aurora indicators. There's the Aurora Borealis. There's another one, but let's do this one. I think this is the one you're referring to. Let's go to the weekly. And I like this one because it says like these trend buys, even though it's not always right, and that's fine. I like that it throws, some sort of indicators on there. Trend sell, it's just interesting. But as far as, when the red was put in, the bottom was in. So, the red being in here, like, whether you're buying 21K Bitcoin, 17K Bitcoin, anything in that range was good. And even with the orange, we had like orange bands back there. We don't even have red yet. And so I think, those are good. Those are good things to possibly wait for as far as super guppy. So I do like the different super guppy indicators. Excuse me. There's other ones out there, super trend. This one I like. Are we waiting for, another buy signal? So there's a lot of different indicators that, again, I think, if you're not hyper focused on calling the very exact bottom and you're comfortable with the range and scaling, which I that's what I do. I think that's a smart thing. Then I think there's a lot of good things to look at. Coin. Let's take a look at coin. This one's going to go the way Bitcoin goes. We've talked about how this is in a good megaphone pattern here. And if it breaks down, megaphone patterns usually retest and then go lower. So if we get anything around 80 or less coin, I'd have a hard time saying no to that. Let's take a look at some of our top quote unquote Bitcoin mining stocks that are more AI data center stocks now. IREN holding up the 236. Let's add on a moving average and a MACD. I think all these paired together, it's still looking negative. If this thing starts flushing down, I would be very concerned about IREN personally. Let's take a look at, Cypher looking negative. Again, can it hold up its channel? We'll see. Let's take a look at Wolf. As far as Wolf is concerned, Wolf, it wants to get through that 786. These mining or quote unquote Bitcoin mining AI data center transition stocks or Bitcoin mining stocks that now identify as a AI data center stock. That's how they make money right there. So any others, Riot, let's just take a quick look at Riot and we'll get over to any major altcoins. And then I think I'll call it. I got someone coming over here in about 10 minutes, help me with something in the house. Riot, I'm nervous about all this. It's a lot of heavy resistance. The MACD's trying to flip things around, but I'm just going to be patient on this one. I do still have a position in Riot. And you know what? With my Riot position, I don't care if Riot goes down here. I'll buy more. If it breaks up, I'll take some profit. That's where I'm at with this. I'm fine playing the long game for Riot. Let's take a look at some altcoins. And if you guys have any requests, type those below. But I'll probably try to take just like 5 more minutes here. XRP, man, that 200 is being tested. And if XRP breaks down, I mean, this MACD is very negative. And by the time the MACD truly flipped, the bottom was in. Is XRP about to put in a bottom here, or is about to fall through the floor? So very important level for XRP. Doge, who doesn't love themselves? Some Doge looking like crap. And, it's that, man, this one out of all the top altcoins, this one was enemy number one for me as far as altcoins that would underperform. And, it got back to its 786. So, it didn't truly underperform. A lot of top altcoins only got back to their 618 or 786. So, if you took profits there, great. If not, I understand. And I'm not going to fault you for, trying to play the long game. But, I do worry, is it time to sell Doge, cut your losses? I'm not saying that. I think it's closer time to accumulating if we're coming up on a bottom. But yeah, any other altcoins? Don't see any other comments. Solana, let's take a look at that one. And then I'll head on out of here. Like I said, my friend's coming over, help me out with something on the house. And I got some disc golf on in the background. I don't know if any of you guys are disc golf fans, but The professional season of disc golf just started, and I love watching it. It's a fun game to play, by myself and or with some buddies. And yeah. Anyways, Solana back to its golden pocket here, the 618 to the 65. Do we have any sort of monthly? No, that's still in weekly. Let's go to monthly. Nothing really there. I mean, I'd just be watching the trends here as far as monthly. Solana is one of those. I mean, I like Solana for a lot of reasons, but this pump, I'm worried about this one, like truly falling down to like $30. So I'm being patient for Bitcoin to bottom. Anyways, yeah, I think that'll do it for today. Guys, thank you so much for coming by, watching. We talked about, money flow cycle and what we need to get there. And to truly get that, we got to break through this trend line, the 50 moving average, the 382.2. Rhetoric wants BNB. I'll do that for you quick, Rhetoric. Thank you so much for being here. Binance, BNB. Let's see, what is our fib? Is our fib on log or not? Fib is off log, so it almost hit the 2618. It's coming down to its 200 week moving average. And let's see here. Yeah, it's hanging out at the 888. There's clearly a trend line there. So yeah, we'll see as far as indicators. Let's do MACD. That's looking god awful. Monthly, not looking good. Just gonna say, not looking good. When we crossed negative on the monthly, you can see there was a big flush coming. But once that flush was done, pretty good area to consider some BNB, even though it bottomed later. This was when I think CZ was being thrown in jail. Too bad, so sad. Run, ride, hike, thrive. Like the name. Gonna need lots of patience having quote unquote money locked up, wasting time. Sucks. ... I got lucky and took profits on Stellar at 60 cents. Nice, dude. Let's take a look at Stellar Lumens. You got Stellar Lumens at 60 cents. Dude, way to go. Way to go. You sold I hope you bought down here and got yourself a quick 5-6x. Way to go, man. I'm proud of you. I want to hear all you guys making money. I truly do. And have been stacking since under 30 cents. Okay. Do we have, one positive thing is we have some light red boxes, but we don't have confirmation yet on the MACD. Again, what I like to do is overlay some of these with Bitcoin. Does it have any sort of a correlative relationship with it? When Bitcoin bottoms, Stellar bottom. Even as Bitcoin tops, Stellar, another good area to bottom. When Bitcoin bottom, Stellar bottom. However, it kept going lower into COVID. And so, is it going to be a combo of one or two of those things? We'll see. But I do like that correlation overall. And if you're comfortable getting a bucket of bottoms, once we believe Bitcoin is put in a bottom, is at the very low, the absolute low? No way to know for sure. But if you believe in XLM, Stellar Lumens, that's something I might consider for some of my altcoins that I really like, such as, the piece of crap Chainlink that I really love. Fine area to dollar cost average in, but I'm fully expecting Chainlink to maybe go down further. A single tier falling down my face. You can't win them all. Did well on some mining stocks, not quite the altcoins, but yeah. Anyways, guys, good times. Hope you all are doing well. Have a wonderful day. Take care.